All right, let's talk about the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Obviously, coming off an impressive, to say the least, victory over the rival Colorado Buffaloes, sending a powerful statement. But there's now even more good news on top of this big time win. Matt Rule is continuing to build momentum and energy behind this program. A lot of juice in Nebraska right now. I'm Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, obviously Nebraska looks good so far this season. We'll have to see how it all shakes out. Dylan Raiola is the real deal. I think we can say that at least to a relatively small sample size. But like all great programs, Matt Rule is making sure this team is following the always be recruiting concept. You always got to be keeping that pipeline strong. And it looks like Nebraska may be about to pull off a really impressive move, big time flip on that front. Let's go ahead and pull up this report courtesy of SI.com. A number of visitors took in Nebraska's football contest with the Colorado Buffaloes this past weekend, including a major target who is committed to an SEC school. Dawson Merritt, a four-star linebacker out of Kansas, has been committed to Alabama since June. That hasn't stopped other schools from trying to get the talented player from Blue Valley High to flip, including the Huskers. Merritt caught up with Husker Max after his visit to Lincoln. The visit was amazing, man. Merritt said, a great game to go to. I never have experienced something like that. It definitely exceeded my expectations. Merritt continued. I expected them to win the game, but not to be as dominant as they did. And the fans didn't get quiet at any point, even when they were up big. Look, this is obviously big words coming from a guy who's being recruited, not just from an SEC school, right? From Alabama, the SEC school, the SEC program, the model for the last 2.5 decades in college football. It looks like Nebraska's continuing to build momentum. And I think the odds of them pulling off this really impressive flip of recruit here just increased astronomically. I think they probably end up getting it done in the end. But Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. But first, Nebraska fans in the comment section below, obviously an impressive week 1 victory. Let us know who your under the radar MVP was. Look, we know Raiola was great. We know he's got a bright future. We know there's a lot, the pick 6, of course, exciting play. But give us who your under the radar MVP was, the guy that no one's paying attention to, that you think's a superstar. Give us that guy in the comment section below. But Miles, what are your thoughts on this latest Nebraska news?
Yeah, Nick, I think this is really big news for Nebraska, and I really like some of the stuff that he said. He says, this was an amazing thing. It was a great game. I've never experienced something like that before. And I think that stands out to me because this is a guy who's already had an official visit to Alabama. This is a guy who's had official visit to Oklahoma. This guy's been all over. And he goes to Nebraska. He feels the atmosphere in the stadium. He feels, and I give you, the Nebraska fans, the credit here. He feels something in the fans. He said there's something special about the fans. He specifically said the fans stand out against any school I've been to. He says he's never seen something like it before. It really was impressive. So I think this is a guy really is looking towards Nebraska. I think, like you said, this is a flip that I feel with some certainty could happen here in the near future. Also, he goes on to allude that him and Dylan Raiola are very close. We've talked about this ad nauseum on this channel. The ability for Nebraska to get Raiola and him, use Raiola to recruit. I think this is really, really good news. I think that this could be a big move for Nebraska. We've talked about them being this developmental school, them getting these guys, bringing them in, building them up. That is really good. But if you can start to come out and get these guys from the biggest schools in the country, the top recruits, start to flip those guys as well, compiled on with the developmental program that you're running at Nebraska, I think this is what gets them to the next level. This brings them from really solid to start against some decent opponents to a school that is now a national championship contender. I'm really liking what we're seeing from them thus far, and I think this is going to be huge for Nebraska going forward.
What I'm starting to see on Nebraska right now in terms of momentum and energy, I've seen it before. It reminds me about the 2010 era Clemson Tigers, and that's what I was just double checking to make sure I had the year right. People forget for a long time Clemson was just a terrible program, right? They're kind of an 8-5, 7-5 kind of perennial team. They had a couple good years like back in the 80s or something, but they were not considered a serious program at all, right? Then you bring in Dabo Sweeney. First couple years, he's doing his rebuild, culture fit, changing a bunch of things. It's not really going anywhere, but suddenly momentum and energy starts building. They start getting some upset victories. And then out of nowhere, they win 10 games. And it's not pretty that year. They go 10-4. They actually got embarrassed in the bowl game, but there was clearly momentum. There was clearly energy. And over a few years, they kept building that momentum and that energy, and they went on to win multiple national titles. And they basically were second only to Alabama for the better part of 10 years in college football. That's kind of the momentum I'm feeling right now in Nebraska, right? Because those old Clemson teams, they started to take recruits from the Tennessees. They started to take recruits from the Georgias, right? If you're a kid from Georgia, you're like, I want to go play at Georgia. Maybe I want to go play for the Vols. Suddenly, those kids were looking at Clemson and saying, "There's a lot of energy there. I want to go there." We're starting to see that from Nebraska, right? You got an Alabama commit here who's like, I've never seen it in a place like this. This place was crazy. They were dominant to a team like the Colorado Buffs that are all over the media, all over the news, right? Impressive victory, of course, but I think getting the win the way they did it so stylistically dominant will certainly send a message in terms of recruiting. I tell you what, there's clearly momentum. It's palpable. You can feel it. It's not fake. And I think all of this is credit to Matt Rule, what he has done slowly, surely, methodically building a quality program. Again, are they elite team right now? No, I don't think they're a national title team right now. I don't think anyone really expects them to be this year, probably not even next year. But again, it feels like 2010 Clemson, right? Momentum is building, energy is building. You fast forward a few years from that 2010 team, they're going to national title games. They end up winning national titles before it's all said and done. I wouldn't be surprised if we fast forward 3, 4, 5 years if Nebraska is competing for those same kind of trophies.